here in the Reconnected family, we know in our knowingness what this power is. We are still living a very human experience. And that human experience means that sometimes, well, you know what? So to speak, we fall off the wagon. We fall off the wagon when it comes to understanding our own source of power. And when I did the Facebook pre-show, I mentioned a moment from Superman, one of the films, the one with Christopher Reeve, in which after Lois Lane dies, he finds himself questioning all this power in the world, and he wasn't able to save her. And sometimes for us, in reconnective healing, in moments in which we are perhaps experiencing a moment of feeling powerless over something, that thought may creep in our mind, into our minds. You know, all this amazing power of the reconnective healing frequencies, and there's no way to direct them to do what is needed. And this is such an important conversation, because, you know, let's be honest. We are wired to pursue power. We are wired to pursue power because this is one of the most ingrained human behaviors. No, one of our human behaviors is to control things. We have an inclination to try and control things, control outcomes, change things, impose our will, become willful about whatever it is that we don't feel is meshing with the way things need to be or should be. Again, should, that word, right? Should and must. That when we get into that kind of wording and languaging, we typically fall into very extreme behaviors. And it's, let's cut ourselves some slack right now. It is not difficult to feel disempowered. It is not difficult to find ourselves that we could feel at the mercy of whatever is going on, and it's something that whenever we fall into that aspect of thinking, into those feelings and emotions, our minds automatically direct us away from it. They try to make us do. They get into the say or think something that will help us return to some level of feeling that we're in control, that we have power. Because feeling out of power is something our ego, the part of our mind that is set there to kind of like keep the the ebb and flow of anything that's going on and how we measure one thing against the other. Very useful when you need to have a point of reference. Not so useful when becomes everything that guides whatever we think, do, and not do. Correct? So this becomes such a difficult aspect when we find ourselves disempowered, that any little action can become then a validation that we're still powerful. And it could be as simple as pouring yourself a glass of water and pouring it on the floor, or to show a point, to prove a point, to show them or show yourself. How many people out there, myself included, how many of us perhaps we have even gone out to even try to destroy something that we loved, because it's the only thing that suddenly makes us feel as we are all powerful again, or that we have some sort of control. But from that point of doing the symbolic and the little gesture that helps us feel like we're in control, it's just a teensy little step into really moving into an all-out retaliation. Because truly our primordial drive is perhaps to prove a point. By proving that point, power is restored, at least in our perception, right? Because it is truly how we have been wired. All right. So there's no judgment here. This is just a recognition that this is part of our human experience. But here's what happened, guys. And I know you've been through this, I love this picture. He's so adorable. The little baby with the dumbbell. This little actions or bigger actions really are superficial fixes. They are relative. This is relative power, because when we think we are powerful, when we look for power, when we want to emulate those who seem like the other direction, more powerful than us, right? It's like whomever is like, oh, powerful and bodybuilding, we see all this imagery all the time, we are actually moving further and further away from our own innate and infinite power, and it's, we've been there in moments that we have been seduced by our own thoughts and external pursuits because perhaps we are afraid that if we scratch too deep, we'll find nothing there. It's that's when that whole thing about doubting our own power comes into play. Uh, and this is where this conversation, I hope, can lead us to. At least when you then re-examine this program and want to have this conversation with you, or you're having it here in the chat, when you are taking this up with somebody else, when you notice this fight for power, the power, like your instinct, it always is. It is not outside. It is always within. So how can we recognize it in a moment of feeling disempowered? How to recognize this innate power that you have? You have it. So, your innate power doesn't try to assert control. That's the first thing you need to recognize. Whenever you feel a surge of power that aims to control things or change things or is mired with emotions and feelings, that is not your innate power. That is not your infinite power. That is not the power of the self. Second, your true power manifests itself out of knowingness and not willfulness. It's not about imposing your will. It's not about telling this power what to do, direct it. It is there. Basically, when you are in that knowingness, and what Guillermo was just, we were equating that power is about knowing yourself, that knowingness of the self. When you are in that part, you start to truly recognize that it puts us in a state of peace and ease about anything and everything that may be happening. Why? Because we don't need to be brave, which is what Guillermo also shared with us. When Guillermo shared that, people were coming to him saying, you are being so brave. And to him, it was, no, I am in my knowingness. This is what I want and I need to do. And that is truly power, because when those two things align, we become unstoppable. And thirdly, we recognize our own true power when we enter that state of flow. Now, I left it like open like this because I know a few people are coming in that are not yet familiar with the state of flow that happens automatically, instantly, the moment you interact with these reconnected healing frequencies. And I just want to make a quick distinction, right? Because for those of you who are joining us who understand about flow and pursuit for flow, I know it can be something that is very hard to maintain because it requires concentration. It requires practice. It requires your entire intention be placed there, your entire attention. And we know our attention fluctuates. So enter the reconnected healing frequencies that by simply placing our awareness on them, we enter into this state of flow, of communication, of transformation, of healing that allows us to not only experience our knowingness, but to recognize that this is truly our source of power, because you are the power. You are this little speck, and you are also the universe contained here in this beautiful encapsulation called you, experiencing this very human moment. And when we allow ourselves to recall that who we really are, with capital W, who we, WWA, you are in your full innate power.